All right, folks, welcome to the Night's Watch. I'm Jacob.
I'm Alex.
And Alex, could it be going any worse right now?
We could have lost both games in St. Louis.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we should have won that first game against St. Louis. We won the game, the second game pretty well. The Dallas game was tight.
It was tight, but we got dominated for
for a good portion of that game. Yeah,
bit long stretches at a time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could say, well, Carlson's out, but Lashinsky's proven himself that he could play decently, and it shouldn't be on the fill-ins to perform better. Hurdle stepping up, Dory stepping up, Olofsson stepping up. First line needs to step up.
I mean, no team is without their depth issues.
Totally.
I mean, Dallas has fucking Matt Dumba on their team.
But that's the thing where we were able to play well against them. Their defense is not nearly as good as it's been in a long time. I know they've got Heiskanen and Lundell, who are great, and then Harley's pretty good, but after that, it's not great for them. It's Matt Dumba and then
Ilya
Lyubushkin and then Leon Bichelle getting called up because Niels Lundqvist is so fucking bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, it could be a lot better. We could have won all 3 games. We could have won 2 of those games, but we didn't. And we're playing Florida today, and they just came off a shit stomping the Sharks. I mean, that doesn't count.
Though.
Yeah, a lot of teams shit stomp the Sharks, and they've been slumping too. So maybe that was a reset for them. But hopefully they're tired from beating the dicks off of off a bunch of teenagers.
Was that game last night?
Last night they won 7-2. So
at least it was a back-to-back. They're on the second half of a back-to-back.
Yeah, and they had to travel. They're going from San Jose down to Vegas, so you have a travel day. So maybe hopefully they're a little tired. It's Florida too. It's gonna be a hard game. They got a lot of pricks. They got a lot of hard players on the team. Mm-hmm. Bob's been dog shit. I don't know if he played last night.
Yeah, good point.
So it's a winnable game more than you would think.
But I kind of hope he is playing because Spencer Knight's been
really good,
entering his prime.
Yeah, I mean, once Bob's off that contract, it's done. He's not playing again. But in the week after the first San Jose game, we found out that Schwint was week to week, and then a very bad deal to the team is William Karlsson is week to week now too.
Yeah,
classic thing where it's a maintenance day. It wasn't a maintenance day.
Maintenance day. He'll be on the plane tomorrow.
He's
next day on Twitter.
I think
out week to week.
I think we talked about it. It's this team where they say day to day, and then it's a month and a half later, the beginning of the season. He's not going to play for Team Sweden. I don't think he's not going to be back until after that. That 4 Nations break. I really don't think he'll be back. And hopefully he's back and he's ready to go. You can tell he's been laboring on something. He's been dealing with something.
We talked about it last time. And we're like, is it just me, or does it feel like Karlsson's
not the same Karlsson as previous? And you could tell. I mean, he got pretty damn well banged up in the Dallas series.
Yeah,
he barely finished that series.
Then Friedman referred to it as a lingering injury.
Yeah, it's got to be a lingering lower body thing, and it happens. He's played a lot of games and a lot of hard minutes against a lot of big and hard players. That sounded weird as shit.
A lot of
big and hard players,
throbbing players,
big and hard and long reached players.
Mark Stone and his giant long stick. It's just so good.
But in the meantime, they called up Lachinsky, which I think he's going to be like that call up that happens a lot. Mm-hmm. And because Schwint was out and Holtz has been kind of dog shit. Not dog shit, but he just hasn't done anything. They brought up Brisson. And man, oh man, am I over Brendan Brisson as a call-up?
I'm over him just being in the organization.
There's nothing against the kid. It's just not panning out. He's not doing anything.
He is so disengaged.
Yeah. Both in the AHL and then some games when he's in the NHL. And people are like, well, he's got to be played in the top 6 to do anything. I'm like, then you're not an NHL player.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, well, you're sure as shit not an NHL top 6.
Yeah, unless you're a top 5 draft.
You're barely a fucking AHL top 6. He has a whopping fucking 4 goals, I think.
He's got 4 goals, 10 games. He's 31 games played this year, 4 goals, 10 assists, minus 17.
Jesus.
Granted, the entire team is probably a minus. It started out really bad, but it means on the ice for a lot more goals than he is, a lot more goals against, and it means he's bad at team defense.
Yeah, and also I feel like that 4 goals just can't be.
They cannot
be stated
when
enough.
you're drafted as a goal scorer
That's like
at your draft position. That's what you're known for, and you're not doing that.
It's never good to be a one-trick pony, but if you can't even do that trick, then what the hell are you?
Tanner Laczynski came in and he's leading the team in goals in the AHL, and he's like 27, 28 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Gregory Denisenko's got more goals than he does. I think Mitch McLean somehow like there's guys that have more goals than him.
Oh yeah, Braden Bowman.
I'll
save it, but long story short, there's a lot of guys on that team that
are stepping up.
Stepping up.
Yeah, and he's not one of them. He just looks. You brought up a good point when the call up was brought up, by other talking heads for Golden Knights talking heads. They're like, oh, maybe that's like show him for a trade. I'm like, what's more to show? Like, what,
exactly.
What more? Yeah.
Well, I sent you his little stat card that I made the other day. 0 goals, 0 assists, 0 shots on goals, 0 hits.
Yep.
847 time on ice.
Like a minus 7.
What are we showing? What is? If anything, every time a scout looks at him, his value probably goes down.
He's played this year and last year. So in 24 games played between the 9 this year, and then he played 15 last year. 24 games played, 8 points, 2 goals, 6 assists, minus 8, 11.25 average time on ice. And people will come back and say, like, well, he's being played in a third or fourth line role. I'm like, well, if you're not producing in a third or fourth line role,
his evil coach is just not,
he's not a top 5 pick that is going to get plugged into the top 6 immediately.
I feel like that's the other part of that equation that people always forget. Like, well, he's not playing on the top 6. How do you expect him to succeed? I'm like, well, do you know what you get when you're on the third line? You get a whole hell of a lot easier matchups.
Yeah, third and fourth line. Yeah,
so you should be fucking.
In theory, yeah.
Because Bruce, one, if you actually watch the team, and 2, if you listen to Bruce talk, like, he'll say straight up, he's like, well, the third line's not just there to lock guys down. Like, that line needs to score. You know.
And we
expect that line to score.
I mean, look how well our fourth line will do when they're together. Like, that's a product of this whole of Vegas. No matter the coach, the fourth line is still scoring and still working.
Yeah.
Like, but when you've got guys, I mean, yeah, they don't play a lot because Bruce, like, I know I can't play these guys that much. They're playing against a much better line in any given moment. It's like, what you can't just, who are you going to take out of the top 6 to plug them in? Like
that, and then if you want to, it's like, oh, you want to be on the top 6? Well, guess what? The top 6,
earn it.
The top 6 is going to be on the ice against fucking Connor McDavid.
Connor McDavid. It's going to be on the ice against tonight Matthew Tkachuk and Alexander Barkov.
Yeah,
and Sam Bennett, Sam Reinhart.
Sorry, Briss. Do you really think you've earned the trust to
play against those guys?
Do you really have you shown that you're going to outcompete fucking Leon Draisaitl?
Right.
Have you shown that you're going to outcompete fucking
Connor McDavid, Matthew Tkachuk,
Rupe Hintz,
Jason Robertson? Like, you're going to outwork those guys? No. And
I'm pretty sure Logan Stankoven plays on the third line a lot.
He does.
He's still one of the most highly regarded young scorers.
You know who also plays on the third line? He's having a pretty good season because they spread their center depth out. Will Smith does.
Yeah.
And he's playing pretty well. And he is 18, 19 years old. Leo Carlson's playing on a third line in LA. The point is, you're young. They're going to give you less minutes. You have to earn those minutes and earn the trust of the coach. Brendan Brisson has not earned the trust of Cassidy at all, but he also hasn't earned the trust of the GMs.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? Maybe they were right, that, hey, we're going to call him up because we want to use it in a trade piece. Well, if you want to trade Brendan Brisson for a high-end piece, you're not, because he did nothing.
Yeah. And
now he's back down in Henderson, and they brought up Romberg, and Holtz is going to plug back in tonight. So, okay, send him to Seattle with a second-round pick for Yanni Gord or some shit like that.
No, exactly. That's the most he can be used as at this point, as like a sweetener on a team that's looking for a project.
Yeah, we're looking for but that's also some of the things that kill me is, we've talked about it many times in prospect talk, but like, of all the first round picks that we've had, only Nick Suzuki has turned into anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, think about
At
it.
least Cody Glass can stick in an NHL lineup.
Yeah,
he doesn't produce. But
he doesn't produce, but he's in a lineup.
He's in the lineup, and he learned how to change his game to be like a more physical bottom six center.
Yeah, exactly. And he got bigger. He did everything you needed him to do. I mean, Eric Brandsham's playing in Abbotsford right now, I think. Like,
this is gonna sound petty, but like, do you know what, like, it is funny, but like, do you know what, like, just irks me is every time I see Brisson's like profile picture for the Silver Knights and like fucking dirt mustache, his hair is flopped all over. He looks like he just woke up, and I'm like, that's just like the attitude that I feel like he plays with, man. Like,
yeah,
he's like, oh yeah, I just woke up. Let me go out there and
pot. I'm just gonna go out there, score 3 goals, and leave. I'm like, nah.
I'm gonna go out there, rip a few shots,
and you know, maybe that's another testament to.
I'll put me on the first line. I mean, what other options do they have?
Well, that's another testament to like nepotism in hockey too, because his dad is a massive agent in the NHL. He's got some of the biggest clients in the NHL. Obviously, he's going to be growing up in the game and being close to high end talent and being, part of these, knowing these big talented guys, right? But it
got all those cute pictures of Sidney Crosby giving him a bath in the sink.
Yeah, but he's done nothing. He's quite literally done nothing of note to merit that he would do anything in the NHL. I mean, yeah. I again, nothing against the kid. I'm sure he's a cool guy. I'm sure it'd be cool to get a beer with. Seems like he's got a lot of stories about knowing NHLers when he was young, but as a prospect, he's probably going to go the way of Cody Glass and Brancham, but he's got to fix, the kind of like the nonchalantness of his game.
Yeah. How do I want to approach this? I feel like he has a lot of similarities to Alexander Holtz, but I feel like at least with Holtz, for as much as he's not really been a success here,
he's changed his game.
Exactly. I feel like he's cleaned up his game a lot since from what it was in New Jersey. He's a lot smarter with the puck. He's willing to forecheck.
I'm not worried.
He's also usually getting 0 points in game, but at least he's like throws 3 or 4 hits here.
Yeah,
and there.
He's getting down there, getting forechecking, getting into the corners. Like,
he's not great at it, but he does it.
Yeah, and I'm like, when Holtz is out there, I'm like, it's getting less and less worrying that he's gonna make a dumb pass or what was happening in New Jersey. You're like, okay, it'll be okay. Holtz is smarter now. He'll be fine. Whereas with Brisson, you're like, oh god, let's see what happens here. Like, I don't like, because he hasn't played a lot of games. But then what happens? Like against I don't think he's on the ice against Dallas, but there's so many guys on that Dallas forward group that could make you pay pretty easily.
Oh yeah.
I mean, even against St. Louis
there's like a lot of guys on like most teams that can make you pay if you're not careful.
Yeah, there's teams that like in the centers and the wings that are good guys, and I mean, maybe he was to see if he could get a trade piece, but you're going to have to include him in other parts of a trade to get anything.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like the way we got sent Zach Dean out to St. Louis for Barbashev.
Yeah, oh no.
Because Zach Dean was like, what, 19 at the time, and he was a first round, maybe early second round pick. You're like, okay, that makes sense because he's young, he hasn't been in the system. Everybody in the NHL has seen what Brendan Brisson is, and Brendan Brisson is nothing.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't do anything for your NHL team. He barely does anything for a terrible AHL team. Like, if he's on this terrible AHL team, shouldn't he be scoring a ton?
And can I make another direct comparison? Especially because I want to get out ahead of all the. I don't know why this is like such a train of thought with so many hockey fans, but the whole, he's a young, skilled forward, but unfortunately these curmudgeonly old coaches don't like that, and they want you to hit and block shots, and that's just not his game. You have to let him flourish and just let him do his thing, and he's going to score 30 goals. Because I feel like that's what people said about Holtz. I feel like they're going to say that about Brisson. But do you know who took his time to develop in the AHL and who learned to play the right way and who has been shown that he can be trusted in the top 6 consistently game after game and who still produces? Pavel Dorofeev.
Yep.
He is a young, offensively, he's a hot shot. He has a amazing offensive instincts.
And he's got a good defensive game too.
Exactly. Yeah. But he is not a liability. He plays the right way. He does the things that you need to do to win.
Yep.
It's not all about him,
Yep. And he's leading the team in goals.
Yeah. Exactly.
And just casually leading the team in goals.
So I just wanted to put that out there before it turns into, oh well, it's the system. Oh well, it's Cassidy. Oh, it's
Pavel
goddamn
Dorofiev,
curmudgeonly old assholes that just won't let the young guy, won't let the kids play.
Yeah, Pavel Dorofiev is the epitome of the opposite of that. He came up in the system as a mid-round pick, and he played multiple years in Henderson. Mm-hmm. Now look at him. He's on his first year as RFA. He's gonna go 1 year, and he's probably gonna get $5 or $6 million after that, and that'd be a great deal for him. And then even with like defensemen too, Zach Whitecloud, Nick Hague. Caden Korzak, I know he hasn't played a lot, but
he made the team.
But
and relied upon.
Yeah,
the team.
There's guys that Cassidy.
He's not out there on Twitter fucking like, well, if things don't change, I might have to ask for a trade.
Oh, you mean like was that Simone Nemec?
Yeah.
That's the thing that kills me. Like, yeah, he's a high. Like, I hate this new thing now, where they haven't played more than 1 or 5 NHL games. They're 19 fucking years old, 20 years old, and they think they can make demands of either I play or, you need to trade me. Look at Cutter Gauthier. He's having a dog shit season.
Oh, yeah, he's been awful.
What's the kid that went from the Jets to the Penguins? Rutger McGroarty.
Yes, the one with the weird fucking name.
He's in fucking Wilkes Barre most of the year.
Yeah,
like
on a dog shit Penguins team.
Dog shit Penguins team. Dog shit Penguins team.
Dog shit Penguins team.
And with the Devils, I'm like, I don't know, Nemec. Like, if you can't crack the lineup with multiple injuries and you don't play well, what do you think is going to happen? Like, they're not just going to bring you up to be a liability.
Yeah,
and they're also competing. Like, why would they bring you up as an offensive defenseman to be a liability when they have that? They have Dougie Hamilton. Luke Hughes hasn't been as good, but they have Dougie Hamilton still. They have Siegenthal. They have guys that are good.
Exactly, and that's kind of the thing too, right? Is I feel like people really need to get it out of their head that the NHL is a developmental league.
No,
it's not. You don't go to the NHL to develop. You can't just be like, well, just throw them on the second line for 60 games and we'll see
what happens. No,
it doesn't work that way.
The NHL is the peak, is as much as
the best league in the world,
best hockey league in the world, and some of the best athletes in sports, period, in the world. Mm-hmm. These guys are, we're watching football right now. I would argue that hockey players are not argue. I would say for a fact that hockey players have more endurance and are more in shape than most NFL players.
Yeah, a lot of these guys look a little pudgy if you look at them.
Yeah, and that's even like you say that they're pudgy. Like, yeah, these linemen are like probably like 300 pounds, but there's guys in the NHL that skate and play at 250.
Yeah,
and they're a brick wall. Justin Byfuglien was a pretty good defenseman. He was fat his entire career, and that man was huge. Fucking Phil Kessel was a big boy. Pat Maroon, big boys, but they've carved out a career.
And there are plenty of legends of Phil Kessel casually one-legged pressing like 300
just strong. Pounds. Yeah. And
oh, come on, boys. That's not that hard. Come
right.
On.
Yeah, just being
Phil's going to get you.
Being strong. But like that's back to the point is like if you're not going to work hard, like who's going to give you minutes? Like it's like you said, that's the whole like narrative like well the coach is like such an asshole. I'm like
these evil old school coaches, man.
I'm like, well, Jim Montgomery went to the Blues, and the Blues are playing a lot better.
Yeah.
Boston still kind of sucks.
Yeah. And well, that was the one that always gets me with Cassidy. They're like, well, Oh, that
narrative of him in Boston, yeah.
Yeah, apparently he was hard on Jake DeBrusk, and, that was a big source of friction. Like, well, I'm sorry, what the fuck has Jake DeBrusk done since then?
He's been a plug in Vancouver.
Yeah. Like... He had 1 year of being a plug, another year being a plug in Boston, and then went to Vancouver to continue to be a plug.
Not be very good, yeah. It boggles my mind. Like, we talked about his AHL stats, and it's just like, ugh. Like what? Like there's nothing. So like, I'll give you his other stats. So we talked about 24-25. Brisson, 23-24, 52 games played, 19 goals, 19 assists, plus or minus 0. Not a terrible season. Mm-hmm. Team was still bad. 2022-23. 58 games played. 18 goals. 19 assists, -2. So he's dropped off this year a ton.
Mm-hmm.
I know the team is bad. Don't get me wrong. I understand that. The team is bad. But you as essentially a veteran in that locker room, because you've been on the team for 3 years now.
Yeah.
You should be doing something more.
Well, and
you're the one holdover on that team still that it's not just like random guys being plugged in the lineup, right?
Yeah,
like,
and that's the thing too is, I'm not going to put words in his mouth or anything, but to me it almost seems like he really put a lot into training camp, and he was like, I'm going to make this team. This team has some holes in the roster. I'm hitting my age 23
We said that this year when we did camp preview. He has the best chance this year to make the team in a middle six role, because he could have beaten out Holtz, he could have beaten out Olofsson, he could have beaten out a lot of players.
He could have beaten out
Tanner Pearson.
Old-ass Tanner Pearson on a PTO.
Yeah, Tanner Pearson's having a great. He could have beaten out 3 players, and you know what? He didn't do that. He didn't do enough.
He didn't beat out Cole Schwint.
He didn't beat out Cole Schwint. He didn't beat out Tanner Laczynski until for the last cuts.
Yeah,
because Tanner Laczynski.
Remember the whole camp we kept saying like, well, it's obvious already. It's either
Tanner. It's 2 Tanners.
Which Tanner, Pearson or Laczynski?
Yeah.
So, and I wonder if and it seemed like he did make the team technically. He was on the opening night 23-man roster, but then he got sent down pretty quick.
Yeah, I think it's because the Carlson injury. Yeah, that's why, because we had to have a body on the roster, and it was him.
Yeah, so I wonder if that happened and he just was like, fuck this, man, I'm never gonna make it, and just hasn't. Again, I'm speculating,
and then
I don't want to. Maybe I should not.
But if you but if you think that, then ask for a trade or ask for your release. Those are 2 things that you can do.
Yeah,
and because look, like I said, there's been plenty of guys that said, hey, I want to get traded. I just don't think I'm going anywhere. And I think McCrimmon would go, okay, I get it. Like, I see what you don't have a spot here, and I understand where you're coming from. Let's find you someplace to go. Where would you want to go?
Yeah.
They could figure something out. Or like, hey, do you want to get bought out? What do you want us to do? But he just doesn't look like he's actively engaged.
Yeah, exactly.
In any game that we've watched in the AHL, he doesn't look engaged. There's some games where he looks like first period, he'll be flying, right? Mm-hmm. He'll look great. He'll be up and down the ice. He'll be getting good shots. And then by the third period, you're like, oh, has Brisson even played? Like, did he get injured? Where did he go? Mm-hmm. And then there he comes coming down. You're like, oh, okay. Like, what the fuck happened? Like, he disappeared for 20 minutes. So, yeah, like, again, nothing against the kid. I'm sure he's a great kid, and he's trying to play well, but I think his time as in the organization is over.
Yeah,
especially when you're getting passed up by like Braden Bowman is doing well, Kaiuchas is playing well.
Guys that are have never been everyday AHLers.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about the minor leagues right now. We're on that topic. You were at I wasn't at the last 2 Silver Knights games. I had things scheduled I had to do. Well, I went to the Killers on Friday. That was a blast.
Yeah, that sounded awesome. That looked cool. It
was a blast. The stage was sick. They sounded great. It was a really fun time. Our friend from Mojave went, and they won 6-3. You went last night to an absolute barn burner, absolute like 1-1 overtime thriller over game.
Yeah.
That's their 5th game in a row.
Yeah, that's crazy. Are they going to be jumping anyone in the standings?
No. I think they're 29th, but
yeah. We can pass Manitoba.
Yeah, they've showed
the conference.
Yeah,
I don't know if we're going to quite make it to 7th in the division.
Hey, we're only 8 points off Bakersfield.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah, we still got a lot of games left. You never know. Might make the last seed and get fucking dog shit beat out of us by Calgary.
There we go.
But still, that's showing fight though. Like, the season's been so bad.
Yeah, well, we talked about because we were talking about Henderson for a while, then it got so bad.
So, yeah. Because we're still trying to hype ourselves up, like they're still good, and they're like, what, 10 games hit, you're like, oh man, it's painful.
It went from being optimistic for the season to being like, man, this is really bad, to being in shock. I'm like, I don't understand, man. They signed on this guy and this guy. What's happening? And then it went further, and then it got to the point where I think we were both we accepted our fate, and we're like, well, it's over.
We call that the old Buffalo.
Exactly. we got into that Buffalo headspace, and we're like, well, at least we can go hang out at the game.
Yeah, drink some beers.
Spend $15 on a beer.
But they 5-game win streak, and they're winning games well, and they're never out of a game, or they're always leading. Carl Lindbaum has been an animal. So I know he didn't play last night. I think it was Schmid, right?
Mm-hmm. And he looked great.
He looked great. Yeah, I mean he was great too. So Lindbaum, 16 games played. He's 6-8, but get his other stats: 2.93 goals against, a 911 save percentage.
Mm-hmm.
So despite the team in front of him playing bad, he is making a lot of saves.
Yes,
and he is playing well.
And he's dialed, man.
And he's 21 years old.
Exactly. Well, I honestly think that the Swedish league, man, it's going to
pass the KHL.
It's going to be a real place for prospects because they're all kids, but they're pros. You know.
Oh yeah, they're playing against Swedish men, like other men.
Exactly. It's a pro league, so like well, you're 18. Well, guess what? You're going to have a 34-year-old vet. You know.
Yeah, coming in, guy that has played in the NHL, and not some fucking we'll talk about him in about an hour. Not some fucking bad attitude guy from fucking the Rangers or the playing against you. You know, you're playing against a guy that was probably half decent in the NHL. He just didn't find a spot. Like Cody Eakin was in the SHL.
Mm-hmm.
He was, there's good players that are in the SHL, and you got guys coming up. I mean, look at some of the Swedish guys that are in the league right now that are so like Lucas Carlson.
Yeah,
not Lucas Carlson. I'm saying Leo Carlson, and then William Carlson, Eric Carlson, like all these like Rasmus Sandin, like all these like Rasmus Sandin, like there's so many good Swedish players that. But the thing with the Swedish players too is like their longevity in the league, it feels like a lot longer than other.
Well, it's just the way they play because they play a skill game, they play a smart game, and it's easy to make fun of them for being these soft Europeans, but
no,
it's not a super physical game, and you don't always. Sometimes when it comes to longevity, that can certainly help.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Sedins; they were in the league for a long time. They're high level guys, and. No, I think you're right. The SHL is gonna. I would frankly think it's about to pass the KHL.
Yeah.
And it's up there. It's just like how the NCAA is way past the juniors, passing the juniors right now. Yeah. Like because they're playing against men. Like you've got an 18-year-old, like say like 18-year-old like James Higgins, for example, or 17-year-old James Higgins. He's playing against 23-year-old 6'4" men.
Yeah, and playing against like 25-year-old super seniors that are only there to play hockey.
Yeah, exactly. He's playing against grown men, and I think
even UNLV is still
the ACHA or something like that.
But they really made a huge push to go up to NCAA.
Yeah,
but I was listening to some interviews with some of the players after that big upset game that they had against Denver. And a lot of these guys, like, oh yeah, I'm starting my masters, and I'm like, your masters?
How old are you?
Exactly,
26.
Yeah, no, for real.
I'm like, he's closer to my age than he is to a college kid.
Exactly, but that's what it takes. That's what it takes.
But that's what I mean. They're playing men.
The point being, like
he was facing professional shots, Carl Lindbaum.
Yes,
and he was the SHL Junior League Player of the Year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he played the SHL. He was the Rookie of the Year for them, and then he came over. So he did everything he could as a young player in the SHL, and he's like, "Well, I'm gonna go to America."
I go to America,
and he's playing great in the AHL right now.
So he's been playing great. And I think just mentally he's just dialed in.
He just looks like he's ready to play any given night.
I feel like he really tracks the puck well, and he plays really smart.
Yeah.
Like because
he is a smaller goaltender. He's like only 5'10", I think 5'11". Mm-hmm. So he's like a UC Soros type, or like a Marc-Andre Fleury, to where you have to be able to, you can't rely on your height and your size to fill up the net. You have to be athletic and be smart.
Exactly. So that's what I've noticed, that tracks the puck well. He's always dialed in. Mm-hmm. He pushes off well. He gets into the right position.
And he never looks like flustered.
Yeah. Have you noticed that he does that thing?
The tap on the boards
every whistle. He skates to our corner. He taps the boards. He goes back to the paint. And he sets himself.
I would like to feel that it's because we're cheering him on in the corner. He can hear us.
Carl.
Coral.
I'm gonna start saying that when he's playing Coral.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's been great. I mean, and plus some of the other guys are starting to step up. Like we said, Bowman, Uchez, Brabenec.
Well, and,
both Jakobs.
Yeah, exactly.
Jacob and Jakob.
Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of a thing too. Is I feel like those guys have been stepping up, and the more they step up, the more responsibility they get.
The worse it looks for Brisson.
Exactly, and I'm like, and I feel like it's probably because they're giving Brisson less ice time.
Yeah,
or he's not even playing.
I wouldn't be surprised if, like, we're with Carlson out. Maybe we make a trade. We bring in a guy. We still need to have an extra one or two extra, players because Schwint is out. I wouldn't be surprised if Demick or Brabenec, because they're both big.
Yeah,
they're both. And then Lavoie too, both big.
Yeah, Lavoie's been great, man. The OT winner last night was
good?
Fucking electric.
I didn't see any replay of the winner, but
check our socials.
You posted.
I posted a pretty good edit with Midnight City as the song.
Ah, sick. I'll have to look.
Shit, if I do say so myself. But but yeah, man. Bowman, he's been. I don't think he's on a streak anymore, but he did have a 8 or 9 game point streak.
And everybody outside of Lavoie is under 22.
Mm-hmm.
They're all rookies basically.
Well, Brian McCormick brought up this point on the Insider Show where he's like, yeah, it's like I think these guys are just getting at the point where they realize they can't question themselves and be like, oh, well, I'm a rookie and I'm doing this. Oh, and they have me doing this, but I'm a rookie. He's like, no, they were just thinking I'm an everyday AL. Fuck.
Cut that. AHL player.
I'm a everyday AHLer.
Good job, Jake.
Shut the fuck up.
I will destroy you. This is getting cut into a YouTube short. Yeah. Jacob's got a speech impediment.
Yeah, you could probably make a fucking hour-long compilation.
Well, I said Ivan Bubashev that one time.
Bubashev. But okay. So, yeah, I think Bowman got to that point where he's like, I'm not, a rookie in over my head. I'm an everyday AHLer, and I'm taking these big face-offs, and I'm playing. He played an OT last night. He was out there on the ice in OT.
Damn.
Yeah, and then
that means Ryan Craig trusts him in key situations.
I saw Brabenec out there. I saw Demick out there. So all these young guys that these guys that we saw at the rookie tournament, and
last year,
and we're talking about how excited we were, and we're like, oh yeah, these guys are definitely gonna at least play in not Savannah. They're at least gonna play in Tahoe. And they graduated from Tahoe to Henderson, and now they're pulling Henderson out of the fucking pits.
Yeah, I mean, we were dead last, and then now we're 29th. I know the team's still not good. Don't get me wrong, but at least you see marginal improvement.
I'd rather be 29th than dead last.
Yeah, I'd rather be 29th than the Bridgeport Islanders. What we looked like last week, we're like, we got to be dead last. Like before this streak started, we're like, we got to be dead last in the league. And both of you guys opened up the AHL app. We're like, oh man, Bridgeport's really bad.
It's tough times for Islanders fans.
Like, could you imagine being a New York Islanders fan and a Bridgeport Islanders fan?
Well, hey, they beat Carolina.
They did in overtime, 2-1, with Mikko Rantanen on that team.
0-1 in the Rantanen era. Huge mistake, if you ask me.
Those Finnish guys will link up. They're all huge. They'll just eat some stinky fish and they'll be okay. But
some stinky fermented fish.
Speaking more of also stinky fish and great. Golden Knights D-man withdraws for Petranos out of the Four Nations due to injury.
What? Breaking news?
Breaking news. Oh, maybe he's just not playing. He might play the regular season, but he's not going to play in the Four Nations to make sure he's not doesn't get more injured. I'll check the check the socials. Make sure.
Well, I just checked the Vegas. Oh, here we go. Update. It just basically said Alex Pietrangelo will be withdrawing from the 2025 Four Nations face-off to tend to an ailment and prepare for the remainder of the regular season with Vegas.
Oh, so he might just be still playing, but he's just not going to play in the tournament.
Oh, yeah, and of course the first comment is some jackass with a Habs jersey. Can't wait for him to come back for Game 1 of the playoffs. He's not an LTIR, stupid. He just said this is like Alex Ovechkin saying he's not playing the All-Star game.
Yeah, it's literally an All-Star game. That's I really think. I know they made this announcement and we're excited for it.
Literally, okay, I'm sorry. Every fucking comment, pulling a stone, skull face. Oh, we all know he's going to come back, blah, 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 blah. These people can't read, Alex.
He literally played on Friday night.
He's gonna play in 2 hours.
He's gonna play tonight. It's like LeBron not going to the All-Star game.
No, exactly.
It's the same idea. I was about to say is like I'm gonna guarantee you that he's not gonna be the first one, or he's not gonna be the last one. There's gonna be guys pulling out of this tournament as it gets closer. I know we're excited for. I think Jack Eichel plays. I think some of the big guys play. I think Shea Theodore plays, but I think guys that don't need it,
guys that are 35
years old, don't need to be there. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Mark Stone doesn't play. I think. Well,
here's the thing to consider: all those guys, Petrangelo's the only one that's been able to play for Team Canada and win gold.
That's true. If he's already got if you already have a gold medal, what's the point of playing in the Four Nations?
Exactly. Because agreed, I am still very excited for it. That's another thing we can talk about in a bit, but the sarcasm and fucking disdain people are having for this thing for no reason.
The NHL can't do anything fun because it's not exactly what you want. It's not what you wanted. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think it's gonna be great.
Yeah, but no, I like you said, guys that have won, medals. Like for example, Mark Stone, I think was on that team with Sidney Crosby. There's no reason he doesn't need to be at a Four Nations.
Well, actually, no, Mark Stone, he's never
been. I thought he was. Okay, but Sidney Crosby is an example. I'm sure he's going to play in the Four Nations because that man's a robot. But he doesn't. He doesn't need to.
Exactly.
He's got gold medals.
So I wouldn't be. I still am expecting everyone else to play for that reason because everyone's kind of echoed a similar sentiment of I'm fucking. I'm 30 years old and I've never been able to play for Team USA.
I would like this. I would like this to parlay me into Team Canada or Team Canada, Team USA for the Olympics next year.
Exactly.
But I could see why Petrangelo's 35 years old. What does he have to prove?
Yeah, and I am almost wondering because I doubt the NHL is going to be happy about this. I wonder if they're going to push back.
But
say you can't do that.
It's like the like the All-Star game.
Oh yeah, they're just going to say okay, you have to sit out a game.
No, it's like the All-Star game. It wasn't a mandate to go. You didn't have to go if you're selected. You remember?
No, that was the thing. If you withdrew from the All-Star game, you had to sit a real game.
Ovechkin, that's right.
Because Ovechkin announced, he basically said I need to take care of my body.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Thank you for voting me in, but I won't be able to go.
Yeah.
And then the NHL made him sit a game, a Washington Capitals game.
You're right. He might have to. Yeah. I mean, if it's a precedence, it's essentially an NHL. It's not essentially.
It's essentially an All-Star.
It's an All-Star game. It's All-Star break. So yeah, you're right. They might make him do that. I mean, yeah. If they made Ovi do it, I could see them making people that set up make him set out a game. I could really see it. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, that's unfortunate for us and Petrangelo, but I can also understand. He's like, I don't want to get injured. Yeah, and I don't want to waste time playing 4 extra games in the year when some of my competition's not doing that.
Yeah, and I know I kind of brought this up when we were talking about the slump last week, but the ongoing slump.
Yeah.
But, I remember saying, it's after the All-Star break, everyone can rest. I'm like, well, our 6 best players aren't resting.
No. I'll take it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll take it. I'm a little bummed. Obviously, we're not Canadian, so it's not like I'm going to be rooting for Team Canada anyway.
But I am rooting for Alex Petrangelo.
Exactly. So yeah, all right. Well,
that was a little break for minor league talk.
We had breaking news on the pod for the first time.
For the first time. But going back to minor league talk, and we're talking about Tahoe. They are a wagon. Have you looked at the ECHL?
Yes, they're a wagon.
Second in the conference.
Out their building.
5th in the league. Second most goals for.
Their social media admin is also hilarious. The way they post score updates and game updates,
and they're having fun. And the goaltending isn't incredible, but they're scoring a lot. They have the fewest penalty minutes.
Because they ain't got Carl Lindbaum.
Yeah, they have the fewest penalty minutes in the entire league. Yeah. And here's my favorite stat: Sloan Stanick, undrafted, right? 6th in scoring in the entire ECHL.
Damn.
41 points in 37 games. He's the only player under 25 years old in the top 10 in scoring.
Damn.
He is 22. Everybody else was born before the year 2000.
Damn. So they're lifers.
They're lifers. And he is a rookie in the ECHL, and he's 6th in scoring right now.
Damn.
So he's having a great year, and Tahoe's having a great year. And I think it's just good to finally fold it into the actual organization. Savannah was like, Kind of, but we purchased their like
I feel like
rights.
I feel like a lot of teams don't have an ECHL farm club.
No.
I feel like a lot of them, they just like, okay, you're either juniors, college, or you're with with the AHL team.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we're going to see a lot of talent come from the ECHL. It's probably going to be, once in a blue moon thing. But don't forget, Logan Thompson.
He started there.
He's started in the ECHL.
Jed Jones has played some games in the AHL, and he's looked good in the AHL. He plays a lot of games in the ECHL.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure Sepavilov was in Savannah last year, and he's having a pretty good season.
A lot of, I think it's clear that, we are planning to use them, as you said, they're in the fold, and we are planning to use them as a, as a more direct 3-2-1.
Yep, exactly. And they're all within the state, like in case the AHL needs somebody, but also gives you easier access to the organization as like a training, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like you have easier access as a training staff or as a scouting staff. You don't have to fly to fucking Savannah to watch one of your guys play and see if you want to bring them up. You just take an hour flight up to Reno, stay in beautiful Tahoe, watch a couple games. You're like, we're going to bring up this kid in the AHL.
We're going to bring up Sloan Stanick.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I'm very excited for the ECHL team. I don't even know how that works. It's like the Kelly Cup, right? It's a tournament, so... we'll see what they do. But yeah, minor leagues is getting back together. Reason why I want to talk about Lindblom a lot, and Schmid. I wanted to bring up the goalies. I know we've talked about defense and forwards and what's a problem. Hannafin's had some issues, but our goaltending has not been good.
No, it's definitely taken a step back after both guys were pretty hot
for a good month or two. I'm gonna give you these stats. Hill, 18-9-3, 266 goals against, pretty good. He's got a right at 900 save percentage. His goal save above expected is negative 1.1.
Yeah, that's not good.
Samsonov, 12-6-1, 278, 898. So they're very similar stats, negative 1.8. So they have both similar average to not great stats for a contending team. I'm going to give you stats on goaltenders in our division that we're competing against.
Okay.
Darcy Kemper. He's played 24 games, 14-4-5. He's got a 206, 922, and a 13.2 goal saves above expected.
See, I'm just going to say real quick that I fucking knew Darcy Kemper was a good
goaltender.
I believed in him this whole time, and I even remember when we're talking about the Dubois trade, I was like, I think this is a win-win.
Yeah, Dubois playing pretty well. Yeah,
goalie, and Kemper's a good goalie.
Yeah,
don't believe me.
Yeah, he is. Stu
Kemper truthers rise up.
Stu Skinner, 18-11-3, 271, 899, and negative 1.6. So very similar to Hill and Samsonov.
Yeah.
I know we talked about how Otter's not having the greatest of a season, but
except for when he's robbing Pavel Dorofeyev.
But 24-11-1, 228, 913, 10.4 goal save above expected.
Okay, so he is. I stand corrected. He is having a good season.
And then finally, Philip Gustafson. He is 18-10-3. He has a 263, a 913, and a 10.9. So that tells me all these guys have decent defending in front of them. All their goals against are low, under 3, which is what you want. You want under 3, and all their save percentages are right at 900 or higher. But the guys that are making the saves and playing well, like Gustafson and Ottinger and Kemper, are all making those saves making timely saves when they need to. Like Ottinger did against Dory. He robbed Pavel Dorofeyev blind.
Yeah.
But then, Samsonov, Skinner, Hill aren't making those same timely saves that they should be.
Yeah. They're not. I don't want to put it just on them.
No,
though.
It's not. It's not entirely on them.
This is more just like a symptom that, when a team hits a slump, it's the whole team, right?
Not for Shea Theodore, apparently.
Yeah, but because one thing I've noticed and I think Cass even mentioned it in his pregame presser today. The net front defense has been pretty shaky lately.
Yes. Yeah. No. It's just they let free fucking runners straight to the net, or it's a free shot on net.
Just not winning battles in front of the net.
No.
And I think that's kind of where a lot of those minuses for Hannafin has come in, because I don't think that pairing has been particularly good in front of the net.
No, and it could be a thing that, like,
at neutral zone,
like we just said, that Petro pulled out, that he might be nursing something, right? And Hannafin's trying to make up for that, and he's just doing a lot. And I mean, against Carolina, where he deflected that puck into the net on Hill, and Hill actually had a pretty great game against Carolina. He deflected that in. I mean, I think, outside of McNabb and Theodore, the defense could be better. White Cloud's great. He's been just solid. Haig's had some not great puck decisions lately, and we've talked about where, why maybe at a certain point, not saying like punish him, but try out Korczak, throw him in, give him a game or two. If he's not great, take him out. You have that luxury as a team now. Like,
or even if you just look at it this way, like, well, we want to make sure Corsi gets some games.
Yeah, totally.
So we're planning right now. We're gonna give him 2, regardless of how good or bad he is. He's gonna get 2, and then we'll bring Haig back. We'll switch him back out.
I mean, if
see how the next stretch
if
goes.
Pietrangelo has to nurse something, here's your moment, kid. Get in and play some minutes. So we'll see. I think this team. We talked about it. This team is better than their record shows, and it's just not been good. But and Edmonton passed us last night because they barely beat Buffalo 3-2.
Yeah, I saw that.
So we'll take that with a grain of salt. They also McDavid's out, so that's a little. That's not a little X factor. That's a huge X factor.
True.
But yeah, I mean, getting into the league, holy shit, Mikko Rantanen's a Carolina Hurricane.
Yeah, that was a crazy fucking trade.
What's crazier though to me is all the talk right after it happened. McKinnon did not know. Jared Bednar was surprised by it too.
Literally, no. I don't think anyone knew about it except for fucking
GM. Their GM. Like, and Rantanen even was like, "I would have." Did you see that quote from him in a Finnish paper? He was like, "I was willing to take a discount and work on money." And
they always say
that's what they say. But
clearly, it wasn't going to happen.
But if Leon Draisaitl is getting paid $14 million,
well, and that's the thing, he has the same agent as Draisaitl.
Yeah, I think Mikko Rantanen should be getting paid at least 12 to 13.
Yeah,
he's top 5 in scoring like every year.
He's
a monster.
He's like possibly the best winger.
I would say the best winger in the league.
I think Draisaitl's technically a center, right?
He's a center. He plays second. They only put together McDavid and Draisaitl when it's going really bad.
Yeah.
And sometimes pretty often for them. But no, he's a true winger. He is the best true winger in the league.
Yeah.
Period.
I would say so.
Because Mitch Marner's is Mitch Marner a winger or is he center?
He's a winger.
I put Rantanen over Marner.
Yeah.
And Rantanen's the size of Rantanen.
To me, the only one that would be close is like Matthew Tkachuk.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Yeah.
Tkachuk does other things.
Yeah. But also Rantanen is like, he can score. He can score. He can pass, but he also can hit and and be defensive and just lay. He's huge. You call him Moose for a reason. He's 6'5", like 215, 20 pounds. I'm like, the guy is gigantic.
Yeah.
But that trade, like we talked about it, like, oh, would Colorado trade? We said maybe, but then we also said they would probably sign him first. Be smarter to sign him.
Yeah, that, or I'm like, honestly, he's so good that I thought, like, even if they can't sign him,
just let him walk in the office. Like,
just
run it as long as you can.
Use him as your own rental.
Yeah, run it as long as you can until the wheels fall off, and then if you don't win, try to negotiate. But if not, he walks. That happens. But for a team that is squarely in the playoffs right now, to trade your second highest scoring player, a player that's also top 10 in scoring, and your best player's running mate for the last 6 years, give or take. And I guess you could use the reasoning like, well, they have to pay Makar. I'm like, you could pay both.
Well, see, maybe this might be where we differ. I was going to say this trade makes them worse today, but honestly, I think it was the smart move long term. I think I think they got to a place where they were like, okay,
maybe maybe they're doing the math like there's no way we can afford this.
There's just there's no way we can afford to have McKinnon and Makar. And
there's no way
Ransonen.
We can afford $40 million between three players, even with the cap going up.
Yeah, and even if they could technically afford it, it's just going to be like what we criticize Edmonton for.
Yeah.
What we already criticized Colorado for. Like, well, they're top heavy.
And the Leafs too.
Depth?
Yeah, that
exactly. So I think they said, you know what? That's not how you win.
Yeah.
And this is going to fucking suck. But, we're going to keep the center and keep the defenseman and let the winger go.
Yeah. You could argue. Yeah, center and defenseman are more valuable than winger, right? Because most centers can play wing, or do play wing. And they got Marty Netras back too, who's a good player in his own right. And Jack Drury.
So you fill a hole in your bottom six centers, which has been a hole.
Yeah. Parker Kelly.
Chris
Wagner.
Exactly, and frankly, they still need a second line center in my opinion.
Yeah, but Jack Drury is a bottom six center that almost every team would love to have.
Oh yeah,
and he's a good bottom six center, like
defensive minded.
Yeah, and he's good. And then Martin Netras can score. He's a good player.
He is unquestionably a good top six winger.
Yeah, totally. And now, like you said, now you still have to figure out your second line center. You have to figure something out. I think they still might be in the play, in the game for something.
Well, spacing on his name, but their GM said something like, well, we're still monitoring the market.
Yeah.
And then Chris Johnson kind of implied that, like, oh, well, they have assets and cap space, and don't be surprised if they make a move for their second line center.
I wouldn't be surprised if they pick somebody up from Buffalo, or they go after Brock Nelson.
Mm-hmm.
There's your second line center.
Yeah, because as much as I love this move for Carolina, you look at their top six, I'm like, well, Jesperi Kotkaniemi is not a second line center.
He's playing second line center. They still need one.
Yeah.
But I also think they're not done yet either, because they also have pieces. They still have defensive prospects. They still have forward prospects in the pipeline. They still have their first round picks that they can give up, but go get a Brock Nelson or go get a JT Miller or something like that. They could they can rework that team. And this is without Willem Carrier in the lineup if he's ever going to be played the rest of the year.
Oh yeah, you see that he's out, and I'm like, I love Carrier, but
he's going for a second opinion on his lower body injury.
Yeah, well, I love Carrier. He's a great player, and I know we're sad to let him go. And people are like, oh, why would McCrimmon do? Oh, I'm like, well, because the guy plays fucking 50 games a year.
Literally,
he's
always
injured
every year.
He's always.
I mean, you remember and
substantial injuries.
Yeah, he was injured up until the playoffs started last year or 2 years ago. He didn't even I think he barely played in the playoffs last year.
No, he played in the playoffs, but he didn't come in until the middle/end of the Winnipeg series.
Oh yeah, that's right. Did he play against Dallas last year? Mm-hmm. He did. But yeah, he was injured, and he's still injured. And it's just, it was sad to see Carrier go, but you let go a guy that only plays 40 to 50 games a year.
Yeah, that's
not sustainable on a competing team.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then the fucking Blackhawks sitting in the cuck chair, retaining 50% of Rantanen's salary and giving the Canes Taylor Hall.
Yeah,
for a third round pick.
Yeah, because they are technically saving money by doing that, but I feel like you could have
bent over somebody.
I feel like you could have gotten a pick for Hall and then another pick for the salary.
For the salary. Oh yeah, you could have.
You could have got a 2/3, a second and a third. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right. I do think both Avs and the Canes are going to be going second line center shopping, and there are a couple. There's Brock Nelson, JT Miller. JT Miller's the first line center, but Brock Nelson, JT Miller. I think Yanni Gourde's a center.
Yes,
he could play up there if you need him to. He's better than Jesper Kotkaniemi, that's for sure. There's guys out there that you can go pick up as either the Avs or the Canes, but I think the trade works out for both of them. It was a crazy trade.
Yeah,
it was sure as shit a blockbuster. One of the biggest trades we've had in years.
I would say the only two that come close to this were the Tkachuk trade,
yes,
and the Eichel trade.
Yeah, because the Tkachuk trade was superstar for super, because Huberdeau had an incredible season that year before. He was, and they sent Uyghur with him too, who was great, who is still great for Calgary. But that was a big blockbuster trade because it was stars, right? The same thing here. And then, like you said, the Eichel trade, whereas you sent Tuck and Krebs. Yeah, this is a massive trade, and I don't know. Do you think this primes going to the trade deadline that there'll be bigger trades this year? Because I feel like you'll get like one decent sized one, and then all of them are like little, right? Like
it always feels disappointing. Right?
It's like a bottom six. It's like it's Ivan Barbashev, and turns out it's ones you're like, okay, those are small ones.
Yeah.
Even though it turned out well for us. Oh, it's Teddy Bluger, or it's this guy. Whereas like this is the biggest, like you said, this is the biggest trade since the Kachuk trade and the Eichel trade. I don't think there's gonna be like another huge one. I think the biggest pieces are like Brock Nelson but then again, I didn't think Mikko Rantanen was on the board. I didn't think Marty Netchus was on the board.
Well, and it's exactly, and it's like last year with us. Like no one thought fucking Hurdle was available.
No, yeah, sure. No one thought we were going to get Noah Hanifin.
Like, it's always those sneaky ones that you don't think.
Yeah,
because when you look at everyone's trade board, it's like, well, who's a UFA? Who's a UFA?
Yeah.
Who's a UFA? There's only so many UFAs. But there are teams out there that are willing to trade for guys with the term and really revamp their lineup, not just for the playoffs, but for the next few years.
Yeah, that was absolutely insane. Like, I was sitting there at dinner before the Killers concert, and it all came across. My phone's going off. I'm like, oh, it might be like the camera with the dog. No, I see like 20. I see like 3 messages from you, 4 messages from the fantasy hockey group chat. 4 from the score. Yeah. Mikko Rantanen. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I was like, holy shit.
Just a blockbuster on a Friday in January. Like, just random day. But, like, that was insane. I think both teams are, like you said, both teams need to make maybe one more piece to really get going. But
yeah, and I will say, I think as far as will there be another big one? I just don't think there's going to be a lot of trades in general.
Yeah,
there's too many teams that are in the hunt.
Yeah, I wanted to go into the Vancouver trade drama, and Elias Pettersson. I'm like, one, why can't they get along? First of all,
can't we all just get along?
Like, you guys are professional hockey players. 2, you're going to trade your 2 best players outside of Quinn Hughes, one of your 2, or both of you 2. You guys that angry at both of them? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You just gave Elias Pettersson $11 million.
Yeah, it's insane. Can I tell you one thing, though, that I've been noticing? And shout out to my favorite VGK shit poster, Shea Theodore's Missing Tooth. I'll just refer to him as Tooth.
I love that guy.
But, Tooth pointed out that every time Pettersson's name comes up, you open the comments, and it's just people saying, well, he's soft, he's this, you can never win with this guy, blah, blah, blah. It's insane to me that, they even want to keep him. He's such an overpay. They need to get rid of him. He's like, this is literally verbatim copy-paste the same comments that we saw about Jack Eichel.
Yeah.
And then he got traded, and then now he's a premier forward in the league. And then if you look at the stats, he's like one of the... Pettersson is still like one of the best forwards in the fucking league.
That's the thing that's crazy to me, too. Pettersson and JT Miller are some of the best forwards in the league.
Mm-hmm.
JT Miller has had close to 100 points every single year in the last 5 years.
Remember when they traded their captain, Bo Horvat, to keep Miller because Miller drove him out because they couldn't get along?
It's got to be a JT Miller thing.
That's the only reason why I think they should trade JT Miller. Like, this guy, apparently this guy's just such an asshole that he just gets run out of every locker room that he's in, and he's the opposite of a glue guy. He seems to sow division everywhere he goes.
He's an acid guy.
He's a solvent.
Yeah, I think at this point, I would say it's smarter to trade JT Miller because Pettersson, yes, is what, 4 years younger, and you can build around him and Hughes more than you can build around a 33-year-old JT Miller or 30-something. Yeah, because you could trade JT Miller to, let's say he goes to the Canes. For JT Miller from the Canes, you probably could get back, for JT Miller, probably like Jackson Blake or like Alexander Nikishin and a second-round pick. Because JT Miller still, again, he's an asshole, but JT Miller's still an elite forward. Like, he's still an elite player. And why would you trade him to the Rangers? Like, what could you get back from the Rangers that would matter that you would want as the Vancouver.
Oh, what did you think of that supposed trade that got thrown out? The
it was
Hedel, Lindgren in a first.
If Hedel actually played more than 10 games a year.
Well, that's the thing. I'm like, I feel like a lot of people said that's such a bad offer. I'm like, I don't think it's that bad. But yeah, Hedel and Lindgren are both chronically injured.
Yeah, it's not.
I think wherever
in a vacuum,
Vancouver needs a defenseman back.
Yes.
Whatever they do,
like in a vacuum, that trade's not bad. But knowing their injury history,
yeah,
it's not a good trade. Like if I was Vancouver and I was going to trade with the Rangers, I would go, okay, instead of Hedel and Lindgren, give me Will Cooley, Keandre Miller, and give me one of your prospects.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's another thing too, right? Now that this crazy Rantanen trade has happened, does that redefine the market? It's like, well, Natchez and Drury are a great return, but when you look at how fucking good Rantanen is, do you think... People always think that these trades are... You always think that you're going to get more back.
Yeah.
When you're the one trading a star or you're trading from a position of weakness, you never get what you think you're going to get.
Yeah, but...
Everyone knows that they need to get rid of JT Miller.
Yeah, but for Carolina at least... they were smart because they're like, okay, we want to get a superstar, and here's the superstar that we can get. He's on. Mm-hmm. He's got no term left. There are negotiations that are going well.
They're having very public.
Yeah, Sebastian Aho,
differences.
Jesper Kotkaniemi, they know him. They've played with him. They're friends. They know each other really well. Let's go get him. But that GM was smart enough. Like, I know I can't lowball them because they'll never talk to me again about him. I have to give him essentially my best player for one of their best players. Because Marty Necas, he's slowed down, but he's right now the highest scoring player on Carolina.
He's undeniably
he's a
stud.
He's a stud, yeah.
And
so
any team would love to have Marty Necas.
And you had to package that for that superstar with a good young depth centerman to get back Mikko Rantanen.
On an expiring deal. We can talk about this, but I feel like there's no way in hell they can extend him.
Yeah.
So it's probably you gave up Natchez and Drury for a
apparently have $25 million next year and not really that many people to sign.
Yeah, well,
just Brett Burns.
Oh,
that's gonna be like
he's fucking 40. Let him go.
Yeah, and but look with the Hurdle trade, we had to give Edstrom in 2 firsts.
Yeah, I think so.
Edstrom in 2 firsts.
And that's my favorite quote from one of my favorite quotes from Jelly from General Manager Kelly McCrimmon, also known as Jelly McCrimmon.
Jelly McCrimmon,
spelled with a G. Someone asked him like, well, how do you guys get all these crazy deals done? And he's like, it's not crazy. We just pay. We're willing to pay.
Yeah.
He's like, all these other teams, they're constantly lowballing each other.
Yep.
They're kicking and dragging their feet. He's like, no, once we identify an asset that we want on our team and we think will help our team, we pay the appropriate price.
And that's why we keep saying it. That's why Vegas has some of the best pro scouts in the league. They scout the guy. Like they go scout Tomas Hurdle, and they're like, okay, he's X value. You're going to have to return this value. Do you want to make that deal, Kelly? And it's up to him and McPhee and Foley to go yes or no.
Yeah, and obviously, I'm sure there's negotiations.
Oh, sure. Like maybe
they
it's like
work each other.
Maybe
down,
it's like, well, we'll give you a first and a second, and San Jose's like, well, I kind of need another first, and they're like, well, we're competing. Go fucking take it. Here you go.
Yeah,
it's going to be a bottom 20 pick.
The point being, they're not afraid to let things go.
Yeah, and I think that's what I like about Carolina too. Carolina's even I know they have a new GM now because the last guy retired, I think, or
no, Waddell, he's in Columbus now.
Oh, he moved to Columbus. That's right.
The ownership was hemming and hawing on his extension, and he's like, "Fuck this!
I'm gonna go get another job." And look how good Columbus is right now. But that's the thing with Carolina, was I respect with them too, is they're willing to, like the Jake Ensel deal. They went and blew that out and got a good player. They lost in the playoffs, but they did what they needed to do.
Yeah,
they got better. They instantly got better.
Like, oh well, maybe we'll just hope for the best.
Yeah,
like, no, you got to do your part too. You got to try to win.
Yeah, you got to go after the big fish, and you have to offer competitive offer to get the big fish. That's just the way it works. yeah, I mean, I don't think you're going to see something nearly this big before the trade deadline. You'll see other deals, but like you said, I think this might reset the market a little bit depending on the player. Like, I don't think Yanni Gourde's getting a first round pick.
No, and who do we see that said like, oh, he's probably gonna get a first round? Like Yanni Gourde's.
I think it was Saravelli.
Yeah, I'm like, honestly, I think a second round.
Second round and like a prospect.
Even I was gonna say, I think a second round might even be a little rich.
Yeah.
I'm like, I would say a third round pick,
depending on the prospect too. Like maybe like, or even like a
third round pick and Brendan Brisson.
Yeah, or even like a death player, like whatever not San Jose. I'm sorry, whatever Seattle need.
Well, I mean, Kako has fit in so well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised
if they go after younger guys. And just
it'd be like, hey,
hit the rebuild.
Exactly, like, hey, Alexander Holtz, he might help you get your scoring up. Dan Bylsma's good with young guys.
Hey, Yanni Gourde, Brandon Tanev, Alexander Holtz, Brendan Brisson, and like a third rounder.
Make it happen.
All right,
make it so.
Maybe we undervalue. I mean, but I think Seattle, and I think more Seattle and also Bylsma should embrace like we need to just be young and improve right in this system. And they've got guys that are young enough that can do that. Adam Larson might get traded. He's a little older. Vince Dunn is still young. Brandon Montour's not old. He's not as old as you think he is. But they still have Jory Decord, who's super young. Matty Benier, Shane Wright, Capo Caco, Riker Evans.
Yeah, they got youth. It's not a bad thing,
Yeah, I think they should just build just trade off some of those older guys and build.
Keep enough to,
enough to be competitive. Keep Jared McCann. Keep Jordan. Well, Jordan Eberle is on his last year of his contract. He might be gone. Keep what you can, but do it like mindfully. I think they can. Yeah, I mean, going in, it's what's the date today? 26th, 25th.
It is.
It's the 26th, I think.
It is.
So we've got when's the trade deadline? March 10th?
Something like shortly after, not too long after
the
Four Nations.
So like 2 weeks probably, something like early
Four
March.
Nations isn't like a formal roster freeze, but I feel like no one's going to be doing business.
Yeah,
so I think we might see a few between now and then I think between then and the deadline we'll see.
Yeah, so I think it's really just going to be. I think it's going to be depth players, and I just don't think there's anybody that can trade a superstar or won't be nearly as this big, right? Two competing teams. Like if the Rangers traded Mika Zibanejad or Temi Panarin or Chris Kreider to somebody, you're like, I'm not surprised by this.
Yeah, I think the biggest one that we can count on will be JT Miller going somewhere.
Can you count on that now, though? Like,
I would.
You think so? He's got 2 years left on his deal. After this year, yeah. I mean that would be the biggest one. I think that'd be the most.
I think Vancouver is, because apparently they had already made up the decision. They'd already made the decision, and then they spent literally all day locked in a room trying to move him. Didn't come to fruition. I don't know if they're just going to be like, well, we tried, we're done.
Well, didn't
no, I think they need to move him. They need to get something back, and they need to try to salvage the season because. It feels like Calgary's getting deeper embedded into that wild card spot. Yeah,
they are. It didn't the Canes have a trade almost in place for JT Miller too?
Yeah, apparently they basically went to Vancouver and they went to Colorado and they said, "What's your best and final deal?"
Yeah,
and then they felt Vancouver wanted too much for JT Miller and like, okay, we're going for Mikko Rantanen.
I think it's I would say that's the better deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, JT Miller gives you more flexibility as a center, but Mikko Rantanen's a better player than JT Miller, and he gives you more. Like he already has chemistry with his with Aho and Kotkaniemi, and he's an elite shot. He's big. He does everything that JT Miller does, but he's younger, bigger, faster. he's what you could be, JT, if you weren't an asshole and finish. Yeah, I mean. I think JT Miller moves. Honestly, do you think, just throwing it out there before we get to this last little bit we want to do you think if Vancouver continues on this little downswing, if they're still, wild card 2 or even out of the playoffs by the break, do you think they say, you think Patrick Allvin says, fuck it, I'm trading JT Miller. I'm trading Brock Besser. I'm trading, not Quinn Hughes and not Elias Pettersson. Like trading all the older contracts on that because Brock Besser is a UFA next year.
And I did see his name pop up a few times.
Yeah. People would love to have Brock Besser. He's a good scorer. He's a good player. The matter of fact, if like I don't want to cut you off, but like if you trade those two guys, you have to get high end defensive prospects or defensive bodies.
Well, that's
the
thing. How old is Quinn Hughes already?
Quinn Hughes is 24.
Yeah, he's 24. I thought he was like 25. Point being, he's the next few years are going to go quick.
Yes,
they need to build a team around him like
now,
right fucking now. I wouldn't ask for picks or prospects. Like you
want bodies.
You need roster players.
That's what I mean. Like if you're Vancouver and let's say we go as Vegas. Let's use an example. We go. I want Brock Besser from you. Mm-hmm. What is it going to take for you to give us Brock Besser? And they go. You have to give us. Caden Korczak, I don't know, or like somebody, a defensive prospect, or even like a pick, a body that they can use now. Would you say yes as a team? Do you value? If you think you can re-sign Brock Besser in the offseason?
I mean, specifically for Vegas, like I would say probably no, just because I think. Our defense is our strength, and we just locked everyone up.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. They're gonna fucking Ben Hutton.
I know, but that's what I mean. A similar because you're gonna if you have Vancouver, you're not gonna want Ben. I mean, Ben Hutton's better than fucking Vinny DiHarnay by a mile. But you're gonna want a body or at least a young enough player to where they can plug in and immediately play like a Korczak, or if you trade him to Carol.
Honestly, I wouldn't say yes to it, but as far as asking, I think they would ask for like McNabb or someone.
Yeah, absolutely not. Or like if you're New York, not New York. I'm sorry, New Jersey. They could use a Brock Besser or a JT Miller as another piece. You don't think they would trade back like Brett Pesce or?
Oh yeah. New Jersey has a lot of pieces that they could sell.
Or like Siegenthaler, because you got young guys coming in.
Simone Nemec,
or like Columbus. Mm-hmm. Like, what if Columbus goes, I know we're competing, but we don't have to do this right now. And they're like, hey, you can have Ivan Provorov. There's a lot of but that's the thing with some of these. I was bring it back to GMs. With some of these Canadian GMs, I feel like when you say, oh, it's all like they're all trying to screw each other. I think it's a lot more of like the Canadian teams and like the older teams do that or trying to do that, whereas us, San Jose, Florida, Columbus, Minnesota, everybody's
because I think it seems like that we can say, well, we don't have to worry so much about what the press is going to say.
Yeah, exactly.
There's not an entire apparatus that's designed around criticizing us.
It's like Edmonton signing John Klingberg, and that's going to fix their defense.
Oh yeah, I'm surprised they didn't claim Tony DeAngelo off waivers.
Speaking of that, we didn't. That's my last little league news. Fucking Tony D's back in the league somehow.
Yeah.
How? I know it was like. I know it was like, well, he's out because he's an asshole. No, he was out because he's bad at hockey. He sucked with the Canes. He sucked with the Rangers. Wasn't he with the Islanders for a little bit too?
No.
So he's awful with the Rangers, awful with the Canes, and then turns out he was awful in the KHL, and they hated, and your own KHL players who are also assholes hated you. Yeah. Like, what are you doing, Lou? You're bringing this jackass back that can't play defense or do anything to do what? A body? That defense hasn't been bad, though. That's the thing. Alexander Romanov and Alexander Romanov and Pelican Pollock, they've all, that defense has been, Noah Dobson, is injured, but that defense has been pretty decent.
I feel like, honestly, even though he's a defenseman, they're just praying that it somehow juices their offense.
How? He didn't do anything with the Rangers. He didn't do anything with the Canes. It was so bad with the Canes that they brought in old-ass Brett Burns, and Brett Burns was immediately better than Tony DeAngelo.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying I agree it was the right move. I'm just trying to search for motives. But, yeah, I mean, And let's call it what it is. A lot of people say, "Well, Tony. The only reason Tony's not in the league is because he supports Trump and he says it like it is, and this woke cancel culture got rid of him." Nope.
If you don't realize that most hockey players are Trump supporters or Republican supporters, you're an idiot. First of all,
exactly,
because they are, and there's a lot more Russians in the league that did not want to wear pride jerseys or in Jersey. Fucking Jordan Staal is still in the league.
Yeah.
And he ruined, special jersey nights for everybody.
Yep.
So that tells me, yeah, maybe they disagree with his personal beliefs and his politics, but on the ice and in the locker room, all the players still get along. But Tony DeAngelo is just universally hated by everybody he's played with. It's not a Trump thing. He's just an asshole. It's just an asshole. He's just an asshole. Nobody likes playing with him. Nobody wants to play with him. He's been through multiple teams where there was like, yeah, fuck this. Like, what's the point?
I'm gonna bring up Jay Fresh's.
That stat! Oh my god,
that shit was hilarious.
It was like you showed me John Klingberg's, and I laughed when it said 0%, EV defense or 0% defensive WAR, and fucking Tony DeAngelo was worse than fucking John Klingberg.
Okay, so Tony DeAngelo EV offense 76%.
So he's a good offense. Not good. He's better than most offensive defensemen.
Defense 0%.
0. Yeah, he's awful at defense.
Power play 40%. Competition 8%.
Wow.
First assists 85%. So hey, he gets that pass.
He passes it in to the shot. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Goals 70%. So he has decent offensive numbers, but
awful defensive numbers.
His defense is so bad that his projected WAR percentage is 12. He's 29 years old.
He's 29 too.
Yeah. He can't stick with a team. He gets run out of every locker room he goes to, much like JT Miller.
Yeah. Well, at least
unlike JT Miller, he's not good.
Yeah, at least JT Miller is one of the best forwards in the league, right? Whereas Tony DeAngelo is literally a fucking older version. Not even old. Like, he's just like, Brett Burns took his spot, and he was better than Tony DeAngelo. And Brett Burns is 39 years old.
Yeah.
Like, Tony DeAngelo, like, I don't even know what to compare him to. It's like, Tony...
He's like the defenseman version of like Daniel Sprong. Like,
yeah.
At what point, like, does any team need a fourth line sniper that you have to shelter?
I mean, he's Erik Karlsson, but just doesn't score as many points.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Like, at least Erik Karlsson can score, and he scores goals
while being bad defense.
Whereas Tony DeAngelo is above average at offense, but he's actually complete dog shit at defense. Jeez. Well, that guy's back in the league. He's probably not going to be for long, because I feel like Patrick Waugh is probably going to kill him at one point.
Probably.
Patrick Waugh will probably put skates on the ice and actually go fight Tony DeAngelo at practice. Yeah. Like, that man's still young and spry.
He's probably going to, at their next at the first time, after he starts really fucking up, he's probably going to, at their open practice, grab him by the ear, pull him out in front of the audience, and pull out a microphone and be like, yes, Tony has something he'd like to say, and put the microphone in his face, and he's like, "Oh, I want to, guys, I just want to apologize for being so bad at my job."
But now that we're about there, we talked about almost all the news. I wanted to play a quick little fun Golden Knights game.
Oh,
I'm gonna list you stats. I want you to give me who that player is.
Ooh,
so it's all Golden Knights.
Okay,
all guys that
current
played, or current and former.
Oh, okay.
So, first guy, he has.
Are these stats this year or like just
all time?
Random? Okay.
All time.
Okay.
So this is their all-time stats with the team. A couple of them might be dead giveaways, but all-time stats with the team. First player, he's got 551 games played. He's got 23 goals, 95 assists, 118 points, and he's a plus 118.
McNabb?
Yeah, it's Brady McNabb.
All right.
Okay, next one. This player has got 221 games played with the Golden Knights, 97 goals, 97 assists, 194 points. He's a plus 33.
Pacioretty?
Yep.
Oh.
There you go. Next one. 63 games played, 30 wins, 21 losses, 7 overtime losses, 2.92 goals against, and 901 save percentage.
What was the games played?
63.
Sorry, can you just give me the whole stat line again?
63 games played. So he's a goaltender.
Mm-hmm.
63 games played, 30 wins, 21 losses, 7 overtime losses, 292 goals against, 901 save percentage.
Leonard?
This is Malcolm Subban.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he had pretty good records, yeah. Last guy, this is probably the easiest one. 309 games played, 102 goals, 198 assists, 300 points. He's a plus 85.
How many games played?
309.
309. Stevenson?
This is Captain Mark Stone.
Oh, shit.
So Mark Stone is the only player this close to...
I forgot to account for, missing 40 games this season.
Yeah, but he's the only player this close to a point per game as a Golden Knight. So it's a little fun little game. Yeah. I mean, you got the Pacioretty one. I'm like, I feel like he's going to get this one because Patches is the even stat where it's like,
and then it's the games played.
it's low, yeah. And then McNabb, I was going to get, if you didn't get McNabb at first, so that plus minus is the highest of all Golden Knights. And here's 2 other stats he leads the team in. You want to guess how many blocks he has as a Golden Knight? Block shots?
I can't even put a number on it. Something
1,214.
Jesus.
You want to guess how many hits Brandon McNabb has?
Hit me with it.
13.
Jesus.
So that man is an animal. That man deserved the extension. That man also deserves to have his jersey in the banners.
Also, I know we're going long.
Yeah.
Maybe we can, in editing, we'll save a few minutes. But did you want to talk about the
quarter-century teams? Let's now that we play that game, let's lead into that little quarter-century team real quick.
So, as you may know, the NHL has been doing this fun little thing where they're naming quarter-century teams for teams.
Mm-hmm.
Like who in the last 25 years is their best players, basically.
Yeah.
So there's a first team and a second team. 3 forwards, 2 defensemen, 1 goalie for each team.
Unfortunately for us, it's only been 8 years.
Only been 8 years, but you know what?
Very successful.
Seattle got to do one, so...
And they've been around for 3.
And they haven't done anything.
Yeah.
But anyways...
Jordan Eberle. McCann.
Plus, we've had as people like to remind us, we've had so many players in and out, know. But anyways, so the first Golden Knights quarter-century team, Jack Eichel.
Of course.
William Karlsson.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Stone. Alex Pietrangelo, Shea Theodore, Aiden Hill.
Of course.
And then the second team, Jonathan Marchessault, Riley Smith, Chandler Stevenson, Alec Martinez, Braden McNabb, Marc-Andre Fleury. Do you have any issues or disagreements?
I would put McNabb over Pietrangelo. I'm just looking at those stats we just listed as like a first team, second team, just because McNabb is obviously those stats we had has been insane. Outside of, maybe you could say Patches instead of Stevenson.
Yeah, that was one I considered, but
even then, Patches wasn't on a cup team. All those guys won a cup aside from Fleury, and Fleury led us to a cup run, and he was in multiple long playoff runs too, and.
So here's the one that I've noticed is pissing people off the most is why is Aiden Hill on the first team?
Aiden Hill won a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, Marc-Andre Fleury's on the second team.
Aiden Hill won a Stanley Cup.
It really is that simple, right?
Aiden Hill won a Stanley Cup. We said this before we started recording. If Laurent Brossoit won us that cup, guess who would be on the first team? Laurent Brossoit.
I think people forget that, put it to you this way, I think we would have lost in the second round to Edmonton if it wasn't for Aiden Hill.
Because it would have been Jonathan Quick, right?
Yeah. Well, even then, if Brossoit didn't get injured and he stayed in, he was kind of
starting to show the cracks.
He was starting to fall apart.
Yeah, and Hill came in fresh and carried us the rest of the way. No, it's Aiden Hill. Aiden Hill won you a cup in the last 8 years. It's Aiden Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guess who?
That save in the Stanley Cup final. Yeah. That goal line paddle save. That I feel like that literally swung the momentum of the series.
Yeah, I would say there's 3 iconic goaltender moments in Golden Knights history. It's that one. It's Fleury diving across the ice
for the glove save.
For the glove save against Toronto.
I literally have a statue of that.
So
in
do
my
I have
office
too.
right now. There you go.
And who was that? A coach? He ended his career in Toronto.
Yeah, Mike Babcock.
Mike Babcock got fired right after that, and then LT with Cotter in the shootout to send him out. Those are the big moments. But it's Aiden Hill. Like, as much as I love Marc-Andre Fleury, and I love him dearly, it's Aiden Hill.
Agreed.
If Fleury won a cup, it would be Marc-Andre Fleury. Simple.
Well, and here's the thing too. I hate bringing this up because I feel like people use it to discredit Flower. But at the end of the day, like I said, it's that Hill won us a cup, and arguably Marc-Andre Fleury may have directly lost us at least one.
The Montreal one?
Possibly two.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. But he was a big port. Yeah, you're right.
But at the same time, he was a huge part of the fabric of this team, and he deserves to be on that list.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think putting Aiden Hill over him is
reasonable.
Fine. To me, it all comes down to the cup, and I look at those guys. I'm like, we could not have won the cup
without
could not have won it without Martinez.
Yeah, any of those 10 players, and with Hill too. We could not have won a cup without any of those guys.
Yeah, and I feel like people like to pick on Stevenson. I'm like, well, like it or not, he was our second line center, and he went on
for the majority of the cup run.
Yeah,
for all of the cup run, he was the second line center.
He was the second line center. He went fucking psycho mode.
Yeah,
he was like, God,
he's like third in the team in scoring or something.
Yeah,
like that.
He scored a lot, and then the big one for me, Game 4 in Florida, he fucking took control and fucking potted the overtime winner.
Yep.
And then we came back home with a 3-1 lead.
Finish that out. We all know how that ends. How did that end?
If Florida won that one, we would have come back tied 2-2.
Yeah.
Who knows what would have happened?
Yeah. No. Yeah. And he made Mark Stone better. He
did.
He made Brett Howden get the contract that he's got. He made Brett Howden work better.
Mm-hmm.
And people complained about his contract in Seattle. Was it a little bit too much? Sure. But you know what? Fucking play better players with Chandler Stevenson.
Mm-hmm.
It's not Chandler Stevenson's fault. He's a good hockey player.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think all those are agreeable. I have no other players I would put
qualms.
No qualms. Yeah, all those guys won a cup.
My only guy that I would say, I don't know who you take out, but Pacioretty.
You could even say career, honorable mention is like Patches and like Derek England.
Yeah, just guys.
Derek England was like effectively the first team captain without being the first team captain.
Yeah. Agreed, but
good picks.
I'm mainly just happy that they finally released it because they were supposed to release it like weeks ago.
Yeah,
I guess it was. I don't know if it was like a mistaken announcement, but they're like, "Oh, and coming up next is Vegas," and then it just never came out. And then so I kept posting the Bernie Sanders meme. I am once again asking the NHL to release the Golden Knights quarter century teams.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy with it. I'm very happy with it. Hopefully, we're happier after tonight's game. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Just remember, though, this team has accomplished more in 8 years than some team have accomplished in 30 years.
Yeah.
40 years.
40 years even. Very much so. Agreed. On that note, probably going to skip next week, right? You're going to be in Seattle.
I will be in Seattle to watch a random
Seattle game.
Seattle versus Calgary game.
Now we'll skip next week. Maybe I'll go down to Mojave and see if one of the guys want to record a quick episode.
Yeah. Just do it Mark Maron style. Just drink a bunch of coffee, get in the studio, and just hit the mics.
Hit the mic by myself and just go over the week and be like, just me screaming in the microphone.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, until next episode, stay gold.
Stay gold.